Okay, folks, welcome back. Here we are going to be talking about the second kind of major site that you're going to be using, which is our Cengage system and the kind of Mindtap system that's embedded within that. So we're going to start on the Blackboard page here, and again, it's a little bit kind of chasing its own tail here because you had to already be here to find this video. But one of the best resources for using Cengage and Mindtap. In addition to this video, we have registration instructions here. We have that course key that I talked about. Remember, there is a textbook key that gives you access to the book, but there's a course key that gives you access to, lets you sort of sign up for the course online. There is a course key here. There's also a link for it. There's also some videos here to talk about and some general instructions for how it works as well. So let me take you over to the site itself, and this is going to look a little different than it does for you. One of the things that frustrates me is I don't have a student account, so I don't know exactly what it looks like for you. But my assumption is once I get into the course, it'll mostly look pretty samey. So I've got my instructor resources here, some student instructions, which again is the document that I uploaded. Here's the course itself. Let's click on it. You might have seen the textbook over there for a second. So we're loading up the course here, and what we have here again is our Mindtap platform. The Mindtap platform contains a lot of different things. The most notable is the textbook itself, and we can see right over here it automatically loads. We have all of these different chapters that we are going to be going through, 14 in total. There are activities for each one. Several of them are labeled as practice. Here's the book, here's the chapter itself, chapter 1, introduction. You are going to want to be reading that. You are expected to be reading the textbook in full, in addition to reviewing the lectures. So we have some different exercises. Again, these are labeled as practice and chapter problems. It's always good if you're struggling with the material to put those extra reps in, so I always keep those available there. But they have points attached to them. The points don't matter. They will not affect your grade. What will affect your grade is the things here with the little red dot and the counts towards grade. And for each chapter, we have a problem set and we have kind of a mini test exam. Now, as I've already mentioned, the homework comes at things from some unusual angles. It sometimes is a little more complicated. It sometimes goes a little more in depth. Sometimes it just kind of rattle you a little bit because it will present problems in forms that you're not used to, information missing that you're used to having, and vice versa. I like that approach. It's a double-edged sword. It will help you think more flexibly about the material, but sometimes people can kind of freak out a little bit and think, "Oh my gosh, is these kind of strange, obtuse curveball questions is what's going to be on the exam?" And it's not. It's not going to be on the exam. The exam questions are a little more straightforward. So I like the fact that it's making you in a lower stress, untimed environment. It's helping you again to think about these concepts from different angles, but it can be intimidating. So I'm here to reassure you that's not really how it's going to work on the exams themselves. Each problem generally has, you can generally take each problem 3 different times. I've set the grading to what's called a do no harm standard. And what that means is this. If you get a problem wrong the first time, you can redo it. You can redo it up to 3 times. And if that happens, you get the average of those scores together. If a problem is worth 3 points, you get it wrong twice, you get it right the third time. You have 3 points divided by 3, you get 1 point for that question. The way do no harm works is that if you want extra repetitions and you get a question right before you run out of responses, you can retake that question, and even if you get those retakes wrong, it will not lower your grade. So if you get that 3-point question right the first time, you have 3 points for it, it's locked in, and if you want some more practice, you can take the additional versions of that question, and it is impossible for that to hurt your grade. Even if you get the other 2 redos wrong, you still get this 3 points because you got it right the first time. So that's what the do no harm standard is. Again, each chapter we go in order. Chapters are linked to specific modules, usually pretty intuitively, but also the syllabus will tell you which chapters go with which modules. Generally, I advise you to read the textbook before you watch the lectures so that the first time you're being introduced to the concepts is in the book, and when I'm talking to you about it, it's the second time. The reason why is a lot of times the first time you're introduced to a concept, it's really hard to understand, especially later on. So I think it's usually good to knock that out with the textbook and then watch me explain it when you already are, at least know what the ideas, the basic ideas are, and maybe it'll shed a little more light on it that way. But you also should be reviewing the textbook and the lectures as you get ready for each exam. So you are going to have to make it down to the bottom of this list by the end of the summer session. And again, I recommend that you try to get a head start and get ahead of the schedule because this later stuff is more difficult than the earlier. Now we have some appendices. These are not graded. There's nothing going on here that's going to affect your grade. But we have some stuff like some practice of basic mathematical operations. If you struggle with the basic algebra we do here, you can get some additional practice there. We have statistical tables, which can be relevant to some of your exercises. Usually it embeds the table when you need to do the exercises. You can look at them here. We have some stuff for what's called SPSS. SPSS is a stats software program. We're not using it in this course, but it's not a bad idea to look over this, download it if you can, because SPSS will probably come up more often later on in your careers. We have demonstrations and problem sets for it, and we have extra problems that don't involve software down here. Again, all of this is above and beyond stuff. None of it is required for your grade, but it's good to have those extra resources available. So that's the textbook, and notice again the homework is embedded right into the textbook. Over here, and again, your tabs probably don't look exactly the same as this. We have some other resources. We can go into content. You can make notes. You can highlight the chapters as you go through them. Like, let's pop open a chapter here. Let's read chapter 1. That seems like a good place to start. Notice it likes to change the size of the windows for you. There's always a little X if you want to get rid of it. We can click to different places. Let's go to populations and samples. We can highlight things, and notice we can even do different color codes here. Once your notes are stored, they can go into here. You can add them as flashcards. There's a glossary of terms here. There's the full textbook, lots of different studying stuff. Explore this space and take a look at it and see what works the best for you. But really, you just need access to things in what's called the course path over here, the chapters and the homework assignments. And we have an introductory video here as well. As your grades start to accumulate, you will have a grade book. I'm going to open it. There's not going to be anything in it, but you'll be able to open a grade book for your grades in particular. Your homework average will be updated on Blackboard probably about once a week, but you always know what your homework average is. It's the total percentage score that Mindtap gives you. The homework is technically through what's called Apply, whatever terms. Whatever that average is, that's the number of points you have. If you have a 75% homework average, you have 75 points of homework credit at that point in the semester. Of course, as that average goes up and down, so does your homework grade. So that's the basic way of running this. Again, if you have technical problems, please use that technical resources folder. Our IT department, the contact folks for Cengage and Mindtap, there's contact information on that registration guide. I'm not going to be able to help you with that, unfortunately. If you have content-based stuff, or if you just notice something really strange that doesn't seem to fit, please do contact me about that content-based stuff, and I'd be happy to talk to you about it. But for now, time to get started. You're all sitting on a 0% average. Bring it up. And I will see you in the next video where we will talk a little bit about some of the bigger graded items like taking exams, etc.